Grace sits at her vanity, bathed in warm light, adjusting an earring with the precision of a woman who has done this 1,000 times before. But her eyes are somewhere else. Not on the mirror, not on him. Behind her, Mark lingers in the doorway, his breath tight, his grip on the car keys unrelenting. One step forward, one step back. One moment from walking away, one moment from saying too much. Then, his voice cuts through the silence.
I can't believe I have to deal with this tonight.
Grace doesn't flinch. She blots her lips. Careful. Controlled.
Deal with what tonight?
Mark exhales. Short. Jagged. He runs a hand through his hair. The dam cracks.
You always do this, Grace. You make everything harder than it has to be.
Her lips part. Just slightly. But inside she already knows. The words change. The reason changes. But it always ends the same. And again tonight it did. The sun has dipped below the horizon, casting the bedroom in the warm glow of antique bedside lamps. Grace sits at her dressing table, a beautiful antique vanity with an ornate mirror. She applies her lipstick with steady precision, then reaches for her earrings, a delicate gold pair she fastens carefully. Mark hovers at the doorway. He doesn't say anything at first. He just stands there, watching. His presence shifts the energy of the room. Grace notices but doesn't acknowledge it. Instead, she focuses on fastening her bracelet. The air between them is heavy.
Forget it, we're not going.
Grace stops in her tracks. She sets down her lip pencil and turns towards Mark, calm and composed.
Not going.
You always do this, Grace, every single time.
Grace blinks, her fingers lightly touching her bracelet. The insult settles in, unexpected yet familiar.
You act like you're supportive, but then you drag me down. You make things so difficult, Grace. You never seem excited about these events, so then I have to carry the conversation all night.
Mark, I plan these events. You know that. I make sure everything runs smoothly. I don't have time to sit around making small talk all night. You make sure of that.
Mark exhales sharply, clearly unsatisfied with her reply. Her hands smooth over the fabric of her dress, slow and deliberate. She keeps her posture perfect, refusing to let her body show the hit. But in her eyes, something shifts. Mark adjusts his cufflinks, his jaw tight as he studies himself in the mirror. A sharp inhale, a long, controlled exhale. The mask must be perfect.
Tonight has to go perfectly. Every move, every handshake, it all matters.
A slight smirk. His reflection stares back, calculating.
I need to bring my A-game tonight, and she needs to keep it together.
He exhales sharply, smoothing his suit jacket.
They need to see me as composed, respected, untouchable. Because I am.
He straightens his tie, rolls his shoulders back. Perfection, yet a flicker of doubt. It's gone as quickly as it came. His eyes cut back to Grace, looking down on her with a flicker of disdain.
But if she messes this up for me...
His fingers tighten around his watch band. He steps forward, forcing a smile. The performance continues.
You know, Grace, some of my colleagues don't even like you.
Grace freezes for half a second, just enough to register the sting.
They think you're boring. I know you try, but it's just not working. In fact, some of them feel it would be better if you didn't come tonight.
I've always made an effort, Mark. If someone has a problem with me, I'd hope they'd say it to my face. Who is saying those things exactly?
Mark grimaces at her reply.
She won that time, but I will get her back. You know what? Forget it. We're not going. I can't deal with you tonight.
Grace sighs and slowly sets down her lipstick. She's been here before.
Oh, that's interesting.
Suddenly, Mark yanks at his tie first, rough, impatient, ripping it loose like it's suffocating him. The silk bunches in his fist before he flings it onto the floor. Then the dinner jacket, tugged off in sharp, frustrated jerks, as if the very fabric is against him. He hurls it onto the bed, where it lands in a crumpled heap. But he's not done. His breath sharpens, shoulders wound tight. He starts pacing, erratic, restless, like a man trying to outrun his own thoughts. Grace doesn't move, not a muscle. She stays seated, hands lightly resting in her lap, gaze fixed ahead. She doesn't react, doesn't flinch, because she knows this storm only gets worse if she feeds it. Mark's movements get sharper, more agitated. He's waiting for something, a sign of weakness, a reaction, a fight, but Grace gives him nothing. And that drives him mad. Then, as quickly as it came, Mark's storm breaks. He calmly picks up his jacket and tie and strides towards the landing and down the stairs. Grace pauses at the top of the stairs, adjusting her pashmina with slow, practiced movements. Her clutch rests lightly in her grip. She takes one final look in the mirror. Perfect. Not for him. For herself.
Get in the car, Grace. We're late now because of you.
Oh, I thought you didn't want me to come.
She meets his eyes, holds them for a beat, then walks past him. The car door clicks shut. The sound is soft, but it feels heavier than it should. Mark, clipped, impatient, not even looking at her.
Don't embarrass me tonight.
Grace swiftly folds her pashmina and places it on her lap with her clutch bag.
Strange how I'm the one expected to stay in line, Mark.
She looks straight ahead, her voice unreadable. Mark grips the wheel tighter, his knuckles white. He expected her to reason with him. He wasn't expecting her to be this composed. When love bombing fails, what comes next? Episode 8, Love Bombing and Letdowns, coming soon.